You have three augment choices, and you choose the one that's considered most OP, but your board never comes together, you lose a lot of HP, and you bought 4 wondering what went wrong. You didn't choose a bad augment, you chose the wrong type of augment for your specific game. Today I'm going to show you a framework for choosing the right augment every game, every patch, every set, regardless of what's OP at the time. I guarantee you'll be climbing like my other students in no time. Hi, I'm dpei, and I've been coaching in gaming for over 10 years and have been previously ranked 1 across multiple sets. This video is part 4 of my TFT Fundamentals series, so let's get into it. Let's start with the 4 augments you'll see in every game. The first type is econ augments. These give you gold, experience, or rerolls. Econ augments help you make money to find your board faster. The second type is item augments. These give you completed items, item components, artifacts, or even emblems. Item augments directly increase your board strength by giving your units better stats. The third type is combat augments. These provide effects that help your boards during fights. Things like damage amp, shields, healing, utility, and many other combat related things. Combat augments impact can be really hard to gauge, but they do make your boards cap out high. The fourth type is direction augments. Direction augments are about giving you a game plan when you don't have one, or doubling down on a game plan you already have. These push you towards a specific comp. Things like trait augments that send you down the verticals, unit-specific augments like hero augments, or random emblem augments. Now that you know the 4 types, let's talk about which ones you should actually be taking. So here's the framework I use for every augment selection. Item augments are best before your carries are fully itemized, but combat augments are best after your carries are fully itemized. Econ augments are best when your board is weak and you need to recover so you can 2-star or even 3-star your board. Let me explain why. If you remember in my damage video in my fundamentals series, I talked about how items have a multiplicative effect on your carry's damage. Each item you add stacks with the other, so going from 0 items to 1 items is huge, but going from 1 to 2 is even more, and 3 is where your carry becomes a real threat. This means item augments are incredibly valuable early. You're adding multiplicative power to your carry at a stage where every item counts. But once your primary carry has 3 items and your primary tank has 3 items, what does another item augment really give you? You're now putting items on a secondary carry or secondary tank. The items on your secondary carry is worth less than a combat effect on your already fully itemized primary carry. Think about it this way. A combat augment essentially acts as a 4th item for your main carry, so it only reaches its full value when your carry already has 3 strong items underneath it. A combat augment on a carry with 1 item is going to be multiplying a very small number, so the output is small as well. So the priority is fill your item slots first, then layer combat on top. Let me give an example. Here I was playing AD and got dropped all these AP components on 2-7, where they're not good on my current board. That being said, I'm 6 streaking into a 3-2 augment choice, and I can choose between these 3 augments. I guarantee you a 3-item MF now will do more damage because, like we talked about, items are better than combat if we don't already have a 3-item carry. If I take Sword Overflow, Shojin Deathblade IE will do a lot more damage here than Jeweled Lotus 3. Let me give another example. Here in contrast would be a really good situation to be looking for a combat augment because we already have a ton of items. We have Shred, we have Anti-Heal, and when we already have a Lysandra 2 and Nico 2, we don't need that much econ to stabilize on level 8. We can multiply our stats on our great units that we already have and basically give them a 4th item via combat augment. Econ augments follow a different logic. So if you remember in my econ video in the TFT Fundamentals series, I talked about how board strength and gold feed into each other like a loop. Strong boards make money by winning rounds and by streaking. But sometimes you have a weak board. Maybe you messed up your early game shops, or maybe genuinely you had a really bad opener. Econ augments are your escape hatch. They let you make money through other means other than winning and let you spike later into the game, bouncing back with that money by turning that money into board strength by 2-starring or 3-starring your board early. Econ can also be very flexible and doesn't have to be just for weak boards. For example, an augment like Epoch levels you to level 4 immediately and gives you free rerolls. That's not just econ and exp and rerolls, that could be board strength converted from the gold. Econ augments can act as board strength too, just depending on how you use it and when you use it. Your 2-1 augment choice is the most important augment choice in the entire game. Whatever you pick, it shapes your early game completely. Your comp, your econ, your streak potential, and even your HP going into the mid and late game. So applying our framework here is really straightforward. At 2-1, you almost never have a fully itemized carry, so item augments are your default if you have a strong board. And combat augments are generally a worse option since it doesn't have a strong effect until way later into the game until we have itemized carries. And econ is a safe choice if your board is weak. Nothing changes from our framework from before, the stakes are just higher because the early game sets up our entire game. What's unique to 2-1 are direction augments, which give you a game plan, either one you choose or one that's given to you by random. The hard part here is knowing when to take which type of directional augment. For example, if I have this board and I'm offered Demacia Forever versus Spreading Roots, my board already has a strong direction with Sona 2 and Jarvan 2, so forcing randomness on top of that with Spreading Roots really weakens it, especially if my bench is not flexible either. Here in this example, where taking something like a trait augment like Bruiser trait lifting competition would not be good. We only have one Alawi, no Shens, and we have no other Bruiser. So this forces us down a direction we aren't really prepared for. In contrast, Spreading Roots would be a lot better here because we have a lot of possibilities and a lot of different directions we can go with our full but very ambiguous bench. So we want to be nudged in a certain direction by the randomness of the emblems. One last thing. Especially on 2-1, watch out for the slow burn augments like Latent Forge or Augmented Power, where you have to wait before you reap your reward. Before you take these slow burn augments, ask yourself this: can I survive the whole early game while being down an augment? Sometimes the answer is yes, but just know that the whole lobby has a full augment over you. Now for our 3-2 and 4-2 augments, we actually have the same framework for choosing the right augments, but now you just have a little more context about your game specifically. At 2-1, you're making an educated guess based off your early game and your stage 1. But by 3-2 and 4-2, you should have a much clearer picture of your game. You should know what comp you're playing, if you're contested, you should know your items and components, you should know roughly how much gold you need to hit your board, and when we need a spike based off our HP and our comp. Use all this new information you have to make the best augment decision possible. For example, if you have a lot of econ from your first 2 augments, on 4-2, you're not worried about hitting your board, but you're more worried that you won't have a strong board even if you do hit. So you'd want to choose between items or combat. Now let's talk about the biggest mistake that I see most players do, which is they think too much about which augment is OP and which augment is trash. Yes, some augments are genuinely broken and some are terrible, and that matters, but these change patch to patch, set to set. Most players start here before they understand the framework, and that's backwards. Taking the most OP augment at the wrong time is still a mistake. Type first, OP second. As you learn more about a set, you're going to figure out which augments are overperforming in the current meta, which combat augments are OP with certain comps, which item augments are overtuned. But this knowledge really only pays off when you have a fundamental understanding of which augment type you should be taking in your specific situation. And one more practical tip before we wrap up: before your augment selection screen even appears, use the time beforehand to decide what type of augment you want to see in this augment choice. We often react in the moment without preparing. But if we go into every augment knowing, I want an item augment here, or I really need econ right now, the decision becomes much faster and much clearer when your augments are actually put in front of you. So in my TFT Fundamental series, we've now gone over damage, econ, itemization, and now augments. All 4 of these concepts should help you a ton in every single one of your games. Part 5 is coming soon, so stay tuned for that one. So if you want to learn these concepts more in depth and more fine-tuned to your game, I do one-on-one coaching over at tftgameplan.com, where I've helped players all the way from hard-stuck Emerald to World Champions. The link is in the description below. As always, thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.